I up? I am up. All right, I am up. All right. Hello, everybody. Having a little bit of camera trouble, as you can possibly see. I've got a little bit of flicker here, but I'm going to start the episode anyways, and then we're going to replace this camera immediately. So let's start with that music bed. This music bed courtesy of the Rodecaster Pro built-in music. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mark Talks About the Yankees episode 2. We made it. We finally did it. A duology of video podcasts that maybe some people watch. I'm not sure. Potentially, some people might watch this show. Not with this flickery camera, though. This flickery camera might have to go in order for this broadcast to continue. But after 2 episodes, I do kind of feel a little bit more prepared. I feel a little bit more ready to go. I want to talk some baseball here. It's been a week. It is Thanksgiving week here. And so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And there's been a lot of stuff happening with the off season of the in baseball with the Yankees. A lot of other news with some other teams too. Most notably the Minnesota Twins, the Kansas City Royals. Things are happening. I guess they had their GM meetings where they, kind of got together, started talking about things, and the offseason has officially begun. So really quick, before we start kind of like diving into the Yankees, I want to kind of like bring up what I thought was pretty cool is the Twins revealed their new uniforms actually a couple days ago here. It looks like November 18th, and they look pretty good. Last year I had the opportunity actually to be in Minnesota and go to the actual ballpark. The ballpark is actually really beautiful. I love that grandstand in center field that is shaped like Minnesota. But they revealed their new uniforms on the 18th, and I can share that right here. Let me go picture-in-picture here for you. Let me see if this actually works. Shoop, shoop, shoop. And all right, and let's fade. Bam. So some cool new uniforms. They kind of look like the old ones from the 90s, which is kind of nice. They have the pinstripes. I think their marketing campaign was the pinstripes are back for Minnesota. They have the one, the second one is the one that's kind of familiar to everybody today. And then they've got, I'm not sure if that's the City Connect jersey right there on the right-hand side, or if that's just a new concept uniform. I remember watching baseball as a kid. I could never make the connection about the TC and the Minnesota Twins until somebody eventually said it was the Twin Cities. And then it kind of came back. So this uniform here on the right hand side, the Twin Cities, really helping out all the 6 to 8 year olds who cannot make the connection between the Twin Cities and Minnesota. So that is a cool looking uniform. I kind of like that. It's very different from everybody that is on the field so far. A little bit kind of like monotone, but I kind of like the design of that. Then if we kind of look at those new M's on those caps right over here, it kind of isn't, I haven't read what their inspiration was, but it looks like, to me, it kind of looks like an homage to the Washington Senators. They used to be the Washington Senators back in the 60s, I believe. And it kind of looks like their logo just flipped upside down. And I'm not quite sure if that's what they were going for, but if it is, it's kind of genius that they brought it back. They have a flag in Target Field, kind of commemorating I want to say it was like 1967, but I can't remember the date off the top of my head, when the Senators won the World Series or won a pennant or whatever. They have that commemoration flag up there, and it's the W. So being from Virginia, like for a minute, it took me a while for my brain to process going, what's the Washington Nationals doing over in Minnesota? And then it kind of all came flooding back to me that they were the Senators. So I think a good looking uniform though, really nice kind of nice style. I think it's not as gaudy. I mean, the San Diego Padres City Connect jerseys, I know they're supposed to be that kind of loud, but that is incredibly over the top and kind of hard to look at. But these ones looking pretty slick. So this is on CBS Sports here that I'm looking at. So yeah, and then the other thing too that I wanted to kind of let me transition back to this horrendous flickering camera. The other thing I wanted to kind of look at was Kansas City revealed new plans, revealed new stadium. Where is this? They revealed their plans basically to go to a new ballpark, right? And so I guess leaving Kauffman Field, but it might be well down the road a little bit. But they put some artist renderings here of what the new ballpark is supposed to look like. Kauffman Field never actually got down to Kauffman Field, but I've been near Kauffman Field. Never actually been to Kauffman Field, but it had the reputation of being one of the most beautiful ballparks built. But this new artist renderings, let me try to fade back over here. Looks like this is the new look for this new stadium, which looks pretty damn cool. You know, when these things happen, like this article kind of says down here, kind of makes reference to basically the classic fields. When they start building these new ballparks, it really gives you a sense of when you walk into some of the old ballparks like Wrigley, Fenway, of just how old they've become. Now, Fenway, they've done a number of different things to Fenway to kind of make it more modern, and they've expanded that ballpark even since I was a kid. I mean, with the addition, like in the very beginning, they added those monster seats, which were not there in 1999. And they've added gardens are growing, a lot of like downtown stuff around, bars and stuff. They've added to that space quite a bit. But when you start seeing these new ballparks go up and how new they are and how modern they are, you start to kind of feel a little bit like, well, maybe they should go in that direction. You know, I know Fenway is like a nationally protected, monument or however they describe it, but maybe there is a place for Fenway to get a new ballpark. I mean, they were talking about it early in the 90s, actually making a new ballpark, and it might be time to actually kind of do that. So. But yeah, let's get into it. This show is called Mark Talks About the Yankees, not Mark Talks About the Royals and Twins. Even though I like talking about them. Also, in Twins news, they traded Gio Urshela to the Angels. So good luck, Gio. Gio is also a former Yankee, a great third baseman that he was for the 2020 season. I got to see Gio live at Target Field, and so he's off to the Angels now. But in Yankees news, the first thing that kind of broke this week was Anthony Rizzo signing back with the New York Yankees for, I believe, a 2-year deal, and then there might be an extension for a third. And this is very, very, very good news for any Yankees fans who were worried that Aaron Judge was not going to come back. Well, they signed Rizzo, essentially his best friend, and I think that is a great, great sign. So, look, like some sound effects. Oh, woo! So that little sound effect there for the signing of Anthony Rizzo, and they signed him basically to, I guess, according to the Athletic, it says $17 million for 2023, 2024, and then there's a buyout that New York can exercise if they want to get out of that contract. I think that Rizzo was an important piece to this lineup. I mean, you look back at other options that they had over the last 2 years, and it was slim pickings. I mean, Rizzo was hurt this year. He didn't hit for a great average. You can probably attribute that a lot to the shift, kind of the same plague that, again, like we talked about last episode, that Mark Teixeira was plagued with. But when it comes to offensive improvement, this is one of the better deals I feel like the Yankees kind of exercised. It says here, if I can get these ads out of the way. Oh, my God, these ads are unbelievably atrocious here on CBS News. Anthony Rizzo was the improvement, right? Before that, I think that there was a platoon of Yankee players playing in first base. Mike Ford I don't know if you remember him. Mike Ford was, I think he was out of San Diego State, but he was eventually on the Angels, I think, and then they finally released him. Before that, Jay Bruce was a signing in the beginning of 2021 that did not pan out. I think he retired at the end of April or May. It was a bad situation. And then you always had DJ LeMahieu coming over to kind of be that utility guy. And then when DJ went down, when Rizzo went down, you saw some Marwin Gonzalez last year at first base. And it was always kind of a rotating, for the last like 2 or 3 years, or 4 years really, it was a kind of a rotating cast of different people. Anthony Rizzo brought that stability. And so if there wasn't a more important signing than Aaron Judge this year, it was definitely Anthony Rizzo, even for that left-handed bat in New York, to break up Judge, if Judge comes back, Stanton, you have Rizzo right there in the middle. I think he's a team player. He seems like a good clubhouse presence. I have no idea. I can't prove that. I can't prove it. I just assume it. Seems like a nice guy. He's always smiling. So I'm assuming that he's great in the clubhouse. So could be a terror. I don't know. But he's smiling in the clubhouse. Seems like he's a good guy. He's a good bat to have in the lineup, and he delivers. We all know the problems with the Yankees lineup, especially the bottom half of it. And if he had left the Yankees and signed somewhere else, I think that would have been cause for concern. I think that would have been the speculation that comes with Yankee signings every single offseason. I think a lot of it doesn't have validity. A lot of it doesn't have, Yankees Twitter can be Yankees Twitter, and the the beat reporters can report what they want. They can speculate. I don't think it would have been a good sign going into 2023 if you didn't get Rizzo. I think if you didn't get Rizzo, you probably didn't get Judge. It may have hinted at something that was, not being addressed there. But the fact that Rizzo re-signed with the Yankees, that is a good sign. That is a step in the right direction. And the fact that we have him locked up for at least 2 years with an option for a third, I think that kind of seals the case. I mean, in 2021, I want to say, when Freddie Freeman went on the market, and Olsen from the A's, there was a first baseman cache of players that I feel like they could have cashed in on. Cashman could have cashed in on the cachet of first basemen. Tongue twister. They could have picked from anybody, right? They didn't. Right, Freeman went to the Braves. Olsen went to escape my mind right now, but Olsen went to the Braves. Freeman went to the Dodgers. Right, so they didn't do anything, but they got Rizzo really at the deadline, right, to address that kind of in 2021, right, to address that gap that they had, and it was severely a gap, right. I think Luke Voit was an interesting experiment there. I kind of liked Luke Voit's bat. I think everybody was a little bit confounded when Luke Voit was not in the lineup, especially considering he was the home run leader in 2020. But his defense was pretty bad. I mean, I remember there was visibly a game where somebody threw the ball away in the dirt, and he just stood there and looked at it. Right? I don't think that Luke Voit fit that profile of good defensive first baseman the way that Anthony Rizzo does. No offense against Luke Voit, but I just don't think that as two defensive first basemen, I don't think that you can compare the two. So good Lord, Anthony Rizzo signed. As I said, the Don is back. He's back in pinstripes. They can put that aside. I think that's a good start to the offseason. And meanwhile, while all that's happening, while those signings are happening, you have the next free agent that they probably have to sign early, and that you get the feeling that this thing is going to drag on for most of the offseason. The big man, Aaron Judge, wins the AL MVP with 62 home runs. And when it comes to news that everyone expected to happen, this one comes near the top. of things that we all knew was going to happen. There was speculation throughout the season that maybe somebody else gets the AL MVP. The man broke the home run record. I think you're obligated to get to it. I think it's interesting how the voting kind of came across. Let me see if I can get that up really quickly. Voting for AL MVP. Let's see. This is from MLB.com. More like a profile here. Let's see here. All right, here are the vote totals. See if I can get this up. All right, bam. This is from MLB.com. Let me fade this so you don't have to see my flickering camera the entire time. Aaron Judge, 28 votes for first, 2 for second. Basically 2 for first for Shohei Ohtani. Those are probably the two who voted Aaron Judge second, 28 for second. And then Yordan Alvarez, the rookie out of Houston, getting third in the votes, followed by Jose Ramirez, Altuve, Jimenez, Rodriguez, and Trout, and Xander Bogaerts. And then, interestingly enough, Justin Verlander, the Cy Young Award winner, appearing in that vote. Shohei Ohtani, I think, is an interesting story. I think the fact that he has a winning record with the Angels is amazing. He's a great hitter. Like I think Michael Kay brought up, you can't give it to him every single year, right? Like, I mean, the novelty of him being a pitcher and going out there and hitting. He is a DH, right? Like, it's not like he's running the field when he does hit is amazing. But, I mean, Aaron Judge broke the home run record. And I say this as a biased Yankee fan. But when someone does that, when someone breaks a record that's been in the books for 60 years, 61, 60, whatever the math is, 61 years, right? I think you got to reward him with that, especially considering the man was 6 points away from the Triple Crown or something like that. So with that said, Aaron Judge winning that AL MVP, still not signing, but they did say this morning that, I guess Cashman did say that a new offer was in the works. The more and more this drags on this offseason, the more and more you start hearing the same questions being asked, the same things being posed to Cashman every single day. And you start to kind of feel for the guy, right? Because like some of these questions that they're posing to him, have you been in contact with Aaron Judge's people? Of course they have, right? They would be a bad general manager if they weren't in touch with the player they're trying to sign, right? Like, I don't think this is a Tom Seaver situation where they're like, the Mets didn't call me, and now I'm leaving. They have been in contact with Aaron Judge, right? Some other articles kind of popping around saying like, before Rizzo signed with the Yankees, Houston's interested in Anthony Rizzo. Yeah, of course, all 30 teams should be interested in Anthony Rizzo if he was a free agent, right? That's how the offseason works. It's kind of like the the video game industry or something like that when they're so surprised when a sequel's been announced. Like, if the thing is sold, if the game's sold, then there will be a sequel, right? So, with that said, Aaron Judge, this might drag on all season, but they said they had a new contract. They sent a revised offer. What that means, whether they sent that after the season or whether they sent that yesterday, who knows? You know what? I mean, I think, again, just like I said before, I think Anthony Rizzo signing with the Yankees is a good sign for this team. I think it gives you a better opportunity to win in the long run. I think it gives you a more solid team. Now, if everybody started leaving, I think, it's going to be a different team. It might not be a competitive Yankee team. You might be seeing a Yankee team from 2014, right? Or 2015, those non-competitive. I think they got bounced really early if they didn't make the playoffs that year. But again, they're probably going to sign him. I was thinking about this morning about how back and forth, right? I feel like Yankee fans are, and how spoiled we are, right? Because the Yankees consistently make the playoffs. This is not true with a lot of different teams, right? If you're a Pirates fan, well, hey, better luck in the next decade, right? Like it doesn't happen very often. But when it comes to these signings, I think everybody's kind of waiting for that big Yankee splash, right? And I remember when they were doing that in the 90s, in the mid 2000s, whether it was CC Sabathia, whether it was Mark Teixeira, those big signings, Alex Rodriguez, that big trade when they sent Alfonso Soriano over, or even in the early 90s. I mean, a lot of those dynasty teams, they were built on not a lot of homegrown players, right? I mean, Chuck Knobloch was from the Twins, right? Derek Jeter was homegrown. Tino Martinez was from the Cardinals, I believe. Paul O'Neill was from the Cincinnati Reds. All of these piece parts that they kind of built around some homegrown players like Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, Pettit, right? That core, if you will. That's why they call it that. But we were so accustomed to them making gigantic acquisitions. Jason Giambi was another like huge pickup, right? At the time, right? From the Oakland A's and back in 2000, 2001 or whenever that trade went down. And then the Yankees kind of started transitioning over to raising their players. I think that's why you're seeing, raising a good farm system. I think the critique on the Yankees for a long time was that there was no farm system, right? And now you're starting to see players crop up, right, from their farm system, whether it be Peraza, whether it be a Cabrera, whether last year, Andrew Velasquez, who I know has just been, I think, released or whatever, but he was with the Angels, did pretty okay job, right? That's still Yankee farmhand. And you're not starting to see those big splashes. So I think that there's a hesitancy and there's a worry, I think, that they won't throw the money at Aaron Judge the way that they should, or maybe they would have in the past. But they publicly said they wouldn't be outbid. I don't know what that means. I mean, when you're up against Steve Cohen, can you outbid Steve Cohen? Maybe that's that Steinbrenner money talking again. Who knows? But we'll see if he actually decides to sign. I hope this doesn't drag on the entire offseason, because it should be in Judge's mind that the longer this goes, the longer it kind of buckles the Yankees' ability to sign other people, right? Because they don't know how much money they're going to be investing in this one player. So with that said, they were doing some other deals. It was some smaller deals. But the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on here was good for him, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has been signed, or they avoided arbitration, I think, with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And they got Lou Trevino, according to MLB.com. Kiner went for $6 million, and Trevino got $4 million deal. I think starting with Trevino, right? That left-handed, I believe he's left-handed, left-handed arm out of the bullpen. Is he? I take that back. That arm out of the bullpen, I think he was an acquisition last year, right? So, in a bullpen that was very much decimated by injury, I think he ended up becoming one of the more dependable ones that you could kind of look at, right? And then, in the playoffs as well, he kind of performed there. He did a good job. I mean, no one's really arguing about how great and how powerful the Yankee bullpen was when it was healthy, right? When you had Holmes, when you had King, back to back, when Chad Green, Lou Trevino, there's so many options in that bullpen now that if they're healthy and they're consistent, then you're looking at a bullpen that can equate to that bullpen in Houston, right? The other small deal again was Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I can fade over here so you don't have to look at that crazy flickering camera. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa back with the team. This is the Yankee shortstop. So much criticism of IKF's play last year. Some of it warranted, some of it not. I think a lot of it not. I actually really enjoyed kind of Falefa's stepping up to become the Yankee shortstop. I kind of like his attitude. I like the way he plays. His bat in the lineup, he swings at the ball, right? Which is turns out a really important aspect of the game of baseball. I understand the Yankees have a tendency to try to work the walk, right? They have that Billy Beane mentality of hitting home runs, getting on base, not hitting home runs, but getting on base at all costs, right? Whether it means working that walk, and they work the count a lot. But there was something refreshing about IKF's at bats, right? The fact that you could blink and the at bat could be over, right? Sometimes with a good result, right? Sometimes with a bad result, right? Like any other player in the lineup. The one thing I liked about him was he was bat to ball. That was it. There was nothing he didn't have to be in a 3-1 count to swing. He didn't have to be in a 2-0 count or a 2-1 count. He didn't have to be in a hitter's count to swing the friggin' bat. And that is what is the most frustrating thing about watching the Yankees as opposed to any other team in baseball, really, is their inability to basically swing at good pitches, right? How many times, again, fastballs right down the plate that they just looked at. I mean, they were just idolizing those fastballs, right? As they came down the pike. I think that's what made IKF likable, right? That especially coming off of a year where, remember, the year before, the context was that Gleyber Torres was at shortstop. He was your shortstop. Rougned Odor plays for the Orioles. I'm not sure who he plays for now, but he played for the Orioles last year. He was your second baseman, right? Gleyber didn't look good at short. IKF didn't look like he wasn't going to win a Gold Glove there, but he was definitely in a marked improvement from where they were before. All this, he got a lot of criticism last year because they wouldn't play those rookies, Cabrera and Peraza, which, hey, if you're, and then, down the farm system, talking about Volpe again, how many times, whether it's been Jason Dominguez, how many times has the public blown up these personas of these minor league players only for them to come up and just eat it? The Peraza, Cabrera, they've played. I mean, Cabrera, kind of proven himself, kind of looked bad in the playoffs. But I think next year, if you're not seeing basically a transitionary role, kind of similar to what they did with Clint Frazier, where they kind of gave him the starting role a little bit and then they kind of pulled him back, I think this is your everyday shortstop again. And I think that everyone's got to live with it. I like his bat. In the bottom half of the lineup that needs contact, he's your guy, right? And you need speed. And I think that they value that kind of stuff. They've said publicly that they value his defense. They're not going to say otherwise. Even if they have trouble, they're not going to sit there and be like, "Yep, you're right. He stinks." Right? That's not going to happen. And regardless, he doesn't. He's a good shortstop. He gets the balls. He bobbles some. But he's not. Defensively, I'd rather take those errors. I don't think that you can blame a playoff loss. Especially 4 straight. You can't blame it on Isaiah Falefa's defense. Some games, yeah, it cost you. But that whole series loss was not because of IKF, right? And I think that's what the public was insinuating. And so I think that needs to stop. I think that's your shortstop. Good for him for getting another signing. I like him in the lineup. I don't care what the public says. I like him in the lineup. Bat to ball. He reminds me of Nomar Garcia-Parra, and that is a good thing. Nomar, when he played for the Red Sox, one pitch, he would take, if he took the first pitch, and God knows he wouldn't, he would be swinging at that second one. There was no work in a count. It was like he had such nervous energy in the batter's box. If anybody remembers Nomar was fiddling like crazy in the outside and inside the batter's box. But that's who Isaiah kind of Falefa reminds me of. Nomar Garcia-Parra. It's just like swing the bat. If you put the ball in play, things will happen. And that's what I really appreciate about Isaiah kind of Falefa. But anyway, so going forward, I think you got your first baseman locked, right? I think you got Gleyber locked too. Got to look at some of these, who is locked into what. But you have your first baseman locked. Gleyber Torres looks like he doesn't hit a free agency until 2025. You got your second baseman. You got your shortstop in Isaiah kind of Falefa. They said publicly that Josh Donaldson is at third base, right? Your catcher, you got your Jose Trevino, and you've got Higgy, right? I think if they're going to look at some improvements, they probably want to look there. This page is basically everything that they've got locked up here. I think they're going to use Ben Rortvet, whatever his name is. They're going to probably use him in the future, and potentially that's looking at maybe Higgy gets less playing time after that season, but who knows? And then with Judge still being in escrow, you still have you still have an outfield that looks like Bader and Aaron Hicks, and the lineup looks somewhat solid. I mean, it looks okay. There's definitely room for improvement, but I think that it should be interesting how they kind of play this thing out. Do they make an improvement at catcher? At least for backup catcher. I think Jose Trevino is your starting catcher until somebody else steps up. Do you make an improvement at third base? You've said publicly that Josh Donaldson is your third baseman, but you're always going to say publicly that you're going to support your players, but you're always going to look for that improvement. So I think the next big news, I think they got to start signing some players. They got to start developing some people. Maybe we see a Gleyber trade. I think the one person that's kind of lost in the shuffle again is DJ LeMahieu. We'll probably get some update about when he's going, if he's going to surgery, probably sometime soon if we haven't already. And I think that you see a Gleyber trade maybe. That way DJ can slot back into that second baseman's role. And then you have the two kids, Cabrera and Peraza, who can back up if anybody gets hurt there. So I think if anybody is a little bit lost in shuffle, it is Gleyber Torres right now. And considering he was on the block, this trading block, he might be on the block this winter. So with that said, it's been 30 minutes, so I am going to sign off. I'm going to hit you with that beautiful music bed that's in my Rodecaster Pro. I definitely upgrade this camera situation because this camera is too unreliable, and we can't have that on future episodes. So hopefully next week, be coming at you with episode 3, and let me hit you with some music here. And thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for supporting this, and thanks for watching me try to become a little bit more broadcast-like. Get a little bit more NPR in my life. This is Mark Powell from Reston, Virginia, signing off.